You're listening to the darkest corners of the world. Today, we circumnavigate the globe, all the way from Ireland to Nashville, Tennessee, and right back here with the Dark Wonder from Down Under. My co-host Brad and I are joined by singer-songwriter, fitness buff, Clare Cunningham. Brad, hat tip to you, sir.
Howdy doody, how are you, man?
Clare, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. So good to be on.
Lovely. Look, Clare, I thought I'd start the conversation off, and I tend to drag things into my wheelhouse pretty quickly, which is the sort of heavier side of things. My sources tell me that you have sort of hardcore metal rock beginnings. Tell us a bit about that. What do those forms of music mean to you? And is that true for a start?
Yeah. So obviously I grew up in Ireland and I was always a fan of old school rock and roll, you know. And by default, I ended up fronting an all-female classic rock lineup, 5 females. And I guess we were kind of very AC/DC based style. So it caught the attention of a lot of people because it's not your average setup really, you know, where especially, you know, females in the industry and doing hard classic rock, it wasn't the typical norm. So I do by trade really do come from the harder rock side of things. And some people class it as metal. Personally, you know, I guess definitions are, you know, people have different kind of thoughts on that. But yeah, it was more like definitely classic hard rock and roll, like 70s style. So
nice one. And so I guess, if I'm guessing, I would suggest that, you know, the move to the States, to more options, to more availability to different genres, is that what sort of caused the change? Tell us about how you got from point A being the heavier stuff to point B, the beautiful stuff you're recording now.
So I've always probably in my soul, I've had the Celtic kind of ballad type things anyway. And it wasn't until I made the transition, and it's really only, honest to God, guys, like I'm starting to realise that I am a folk Americana because it wasn't until I won an award. Well, I've been winning a few awards this year. I've been really blessed.
You continuously win awards, and let's talk upon that a little after this.
Yeah, so it wasn't until like I kind of took home Folk Americana Artist of the Year at the Josie Awards that I was like, oh, am I? So I've always been pushing for the blues, soul kind of rock and roll style, and because I do have that in me. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, people seem to be really loving the more Americana, folky, Celtic-y kind of stuff. So I guess that just came about because realistically I'm a solo artist now, and so now I get to really give my heart, whereas when it's rock and when it was with a band and I wasn't just the only writer, it was kind of like you're meshing in for that style. So now I get to be just authentic Clare, I guess, and it really, it's the kind of music that you can speak from the heart.
It comes,
you know, like
Yeah, it comes across really well, and you've covered so many different genres. You've touched upon rock, you've touched upon hip-hop a little bit on some of your songs, and you didn't really dip your toes into Big Country, the band Big Country yet. You could.
No.
Some stadium rock.
Yeah, I guess I could. And, you know, the funny thing is when, especially as I spend a lot of time, obviously, and kind of had a lot of roots here in Nashville, you know, people just associate that with country, and I'm like, honest to God, I'm like everything but country. But that being said, I've delved in it and I have done songs here and there, but I guess for me, really, it's not my heart and soul. Like, my heart and soul is more, you know, when I can speak true life and give people, like, and I think the only way of doing that really is through that kind of style, like ballads, folk Americana kind of, it's hard to pour your heart out into a driving rock beat. You can still do it, but it just doesn't come across the same way as a more mellow kind of style can. So, yeah, so to answer your question, I guess really when I left Sweden and when I left the rock lineup, I was still trying it and still fusing it with things, but I think now more than ever, and the fact that I guess the awards are kind of leaning towards the fact that I really need to be doing that style more, I'm going to listen.
I think the awards are leaning towards the authenticity that's very, very apparent in what we hear in what you're doing these days. I think a large thrust of this show, Darkest Corners of the World, is about where people are from and how it I'm going to say that again. A large thrust of Darkest Corners of the World is about where the artists are from and how it influences them. I think you've touched on your Celtic roots. I think, do you think that Nashville itself influences that Americana seeping through into your music? Because it's not an artificial thing. It's quite authentic and beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you. And I think people, even here and anywhere really, I get a lot of people, and especially males, and especially older gentlemen too, who actually do pull me aside and say, hey, you're touching my soul, and you've made me cry, and you've made me feel things I have never felt before. And like that, to me, I'm like, that blows me away, that like through song and through lyric and through music that I can do that. And I think people will, appreciate something that's real, because even though the consumer might not be a musician, they know it's coming from a real place. And I do like to, I have a lot of unreleased material still that is dealing with a lot of real life issues and a lot of mental health based. Like I just can't wait to get some of this newer stuff out to people, because I know even now it just helps me listen to my own lyrics sometimes, and that's ironic, because I always write it in a place where I'm actually okay and I want to speak to people. But now, more than ever, and, we all go through personal things in our lives, I actually need to sit down and read my own lyric and actually feel it myself. And, yeah, so I think people are, like, even all ages, all genres, all types of people, I think it touches them, and they're liking the authenticity, because you have two options as an artist. You can either sell out, be commercial and be a success, or you can do the same but you can stay true to yourself as an artist. It might take you longer to get there, and you may never be a household name, but you'll touch way more lives and you'll be known for who you are. And that's always what I've strived to do as an artist, for sure.
Hey, to paraphrase, and I'm going to destroy his quote here, but Courtney Taylor from the Dandy Warhols is reported as saying that the phrase, the kids will know it's bullshit. And I think essentially he was saying to a young Australian band recording with him up there in Oregon that you guys just need to do you need to be real, you need to be authentic, because if you don't, the kids will know it's bullshit. And I think that explains perfectly what you've just been discussing there.
Yeah, they do. Like, it's so funny, because I think people just think that musicians are going to smell you out if you're being fake, but it's not. It really is. The consumers are not to be messed with. Like, they really do know. I guess it's like selling, isn't it? It's like some people are bowled over by a good salesman, con man, or whatever, and people will fall into a trap every now and again, but soon they'll realise. And some people don't fall into it and just know it straight off the bat. So I think it is the same with music and with, different messages that are being put across. I also think it's important that as an artist, and like a therapist, I always think, and I hate to say this, but like if you're 50 years of age and you're going to a therapist that is fresh out of college and hasn't had those experiences, I think it's very hard to connect with somebody and help somebody if you haven't been through it yourself. So that, as an artist, I do like to talk about real things, but also because I've been through them myself. And so it's coming from a real place, and I can show people, like, with this method or with this kind of lifestyle or with these certain things, you can actually help yourself. And, like, I've been there, and I like to put myself into the songs, like, and make it a little more personable so that people can actually feel that, okay, well, she's been through this and this is real life, and she's standing still and giving some advice. So I think that's where they might feel the more authenticity than just some young kid coming up singing about something that they haven't really been through, you know.
Truer words were never said, and I agree with that 100%, because I like the idea that people take away from songs that they hear what they need in their own life. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And
now, like, in these times especially, I think people are just, they're aching for anything just to even bring them up, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure. That concept of universality in music, where having a very individual and heartfelt idea and communicating it in such a way that a mass amount of people can connect and draw from it what they need. It's a powerful thing.
Yeah, no, it is. It is extremely powerful, and I'm just I'm so thankful that even in these times too, that we can still get music out to people, even if it's not live or not in big concert scenarios, that at least artists are still able to record and actually, get material out to people at a time of such need,
And speaking of music that speaks to the people, from Illinois, right here in the US of A, this is Astrofix with their song, Scepter.
The Scepter must now